Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
This might be a short kerfuffle. I haven't got a lot to complain about this week. It was a good week. What can I tell you? Did a couple live feeds on Tuesday and Thursday. Had a good turnout for both of those. I appreciate that very much. And also, I got my hair cut in the middle of one video, and no one noticed. Actually, I think two people noticed. Literally. First half of the video, I've got long hair. Second half, short hair. Nobody noticed. Well, two people noticed, so I apologize. But I had an uneventful week, but I had a few people raising some interesting points, so I guess I should comment. In response to one of my videos where I talked about laws and a law being confusing or needing some clarification, I forgot which video it was, but somebody responded and said, well, you understand that bad laws, the lawyers make money drafting it, and then the lawyers make money defending it, and then the lawyers make money interpreting it. And so these laws are written by lawyers to be bad on purpose, and the weird part is that they're being paid to write bad laws. I've pointed this out before, but laws aren't written by lawyers, they're written by legislators. And I know that some people go, well, Steve, many legislators are lawyers. Yeah, but they're not paid, hey, you're a lawyer, here, write us a law. That's not how that works, There are other occupations of people who are legislators. In fact, I know at one point in time in the state of Michigan, there were more teachers in the legislature than there were lawyers. I know that's changed more recently, but the point is to suggest that lawyers make money drafting bad laws doesn't make sense. They don't get paid by the law. They don't get paid by the hour. Legislators are paid a salary. But again, the lawyers aren't the ones drafting the laws. So there you go. Had another problem with the definitional thing, and it's just strange. Whenever I mention engines or motors, I always get at least one guy, a self-appointed word police guy, who wants to say that you're wrong. Motors are by definition electric and engines are by definition gasoline. And that is so disprovable that I almost think people are messing with me when they say it. But what's funny is it doesn't take any amount of thought to figure this out. Because if I tell you I've got a boat motor, no one goes, oh, is it electric? Boat motor is a term of art. An engine on a boat is called a boat motor. That is a common thing. Second of all, not all engines are gasoline. Engines run on diesel. Engines, you can get a multi-fuel engine like on a Deuce and have to run on all kinds of stuff, not just gasoline. So the idea that a motor can only be electric and an engine can only be gasoline is just wrong. It's just wrong. And I know that upsets some people. It's kind of like the people who say that, a turbine engine is actually a turbine engine. Just consult dictionaries, please. Just a dictionary will tell you that an engine is merely something that makes power. So a motor can be considered an engine can be considered a motor. In many respects, they're synonyms. And that's something that people have a hard time understanding. And I've mentioned before that I had somebody actually tell me that, Steve, synonym does not mean the words mean the same thing. It does. Look it up. And what's disturbing even more so is I remember when I was in elementary school, which was a long time ago, last century. But I remember being in elementary school and a kid would, ask a teacher, how do I spell this word? Teacher would say, look it up in a dictionary. Kid goes, how do I look it up? I don't know how to spell it. And of course, it's an old joke. But the point is that you can get close and figure it out, and you'll find it in a dictionary. It's not that difficult. Most words, even if you can't spell them, you can look them up. But nowadays, if you are on the internet reading a comment or watching a video and typing in a comment, the idea to look something up in a dictionary is literally just a mouse click away. You can open up a second tab, Google the word, and usually most words, the first hit, if you Google the word, is the dictionary definition of it. So if you Google the word engine, the first hit's going to be the Google, it's going to say definition from a dictionary. Motor, same thing. So to make an argument about the meaning of a word on the internet where you are taking a position contrary to the dictionary shows me you didn't even bother looking it up. And then it's one of the most, again, I admit some things annoy me that shouldn't, but one of the most annoying things I find is that people will argue with me about the definitions of words that they haven't even bothered to look up. And the implication there is that my belief on this word is right more so than your belief on this word. And what's funny is I often know when these arguments are going to happen, like I anticipate them. And I've actually stopped while I was editing a video. Yes, I do my own editing. I've stopped while editing a video and actually looked the word up to make sure I used it correctly or make sure that I was right in my presumption. I may have mentioned this before. I once used the word decimate. And decimate is a word that used to have a very specific meaning, and now it's accepted to have a secondary meaning. I'm not going to get into that one right now because it's not important. The point simply is, if you look it up in a dictionary, it'll say, here's one definition, here's a second definition. Both are now considered acceptable. So the point is that if you're going to call somebody on the use of a word, look it up and just double check, because it makes you look really, really dumb when you say something like, motors are always electric, engines are always gasoline. No, they're not. I also waded into dangerous territory this week again by talking about e-brakes and an e-brake. Anybody my age knows what an e-brake is. And they call it an e-brake because E stands for emergency. And in the old days, there were cars that had no emergency brakes on them because they had actual mechanical braking systems where the pedal pushed a rod that was connected with connecting rods that actually went up and actually mechanically worked the brake mechanisms on the wheels. And when they went to hydraulic brakes, some people not trusting of the hydraulic brake system put in emergency brakes. And the emergency brake would be a situation where there'd be a lever that you could pull, usually a lever, and you pull the lever and it would pull a cable or some other mechanical system that would cause the rear brakes to engage. And you'd use that in an emergency, and often called an emergency brake. Some emergency brakes also grab the drive shaft and use that to brake the car, B-R-A-K-E, to brake the car. And so they would call that an emergency brake. And over the years, as brakes became more reliable, the emergency aspect of the brake became very, very uncommon. In fact, I don't think I have ever in my entire life had to use an emergency brake in an emergency. But in later years, of course, they still have the levers on some vehicles. It's right here that works the brake. Some of them have a foot pedal that works the brake. And some of them have a lever over here. The lever can be in different places. But I've had people argue with me and say it's not an e-brake, it's a hand brake. Except that if you work it with your foot, how would that be a handbrake? And I've also had people call it a parking brake, because if you are, for instance, parking a vehicle with a manual transmission, since you can't put the car into park, you can use the brake to hold the car in place. Parking brake. I've also heard it called an auxiliary brake, but that's, in my mind, that's much less common. In fact, the first time I ever heard that phrase that I can remember was this week, because I had a guy actually respond very angrily and said, Steve, it's not an e-brake, it's an aux brake, AUX, it's an aux brake. That's what all the manufacturers call it. They call it an aux brake. Well, I don't care what manufacturers call it, number one, because manufacturers have weird names for stuff all the time. Everyone in the industry knows that started out as the e-brake, or the emergency brake. And that is still a function of it. And the weird part is that I've asked a lot of people, I'm going, why do you get upset by this one? Why does this one upset you so much? And I've had people say, but Steve, if people call it an emergency brake, then they'll think that they can use it in an emergency. They can. That's the whole point. So if you're driving along and the pedal goes to the floor, which could happen if you had a catastrophic failure of a hydraulic braking system, how else are you going to stop the car? I mean, just pray for open road and shut the engine off? Well, no, you'd use the aux brake or the parking brake or the hand brake that you work with your foot or the e-brake. You'd use the e-brake. So it's funny because some people, I don't know why, but they'll take a traditional term like that and they go, well, that may have been correct in the 1920s, old man, but not in the 2020s. It's the same thing. It's a backup braking system. It's a braking system that is set there. It's a redundant braking system, what an engineer might call it. It's a redundant braking system, okay? So whether you want to call it an aux brake, hand brake, parking brake, or e-brake, knock yourself out. But none of those terms are wrong, except in my mind, it's not a hand brake if I work with my foot. So I've had people say, Steve, they're all hand brakes. Should I reach down and use my hand? No, you use your foot on it. Why would I call it a handbrake? That's stupid. And then finally, oh, I've had a whole bunch of people who got very, very upset at me because I did the video where I pointed out that in the state of Michigan, they had said specifically that they didn't want you doing a whole bunch of stuff at the very beginning of the shutdown. And then they've been gradually pulling in the restrictions and making them less and less onerous. Or onerous, take your pick. And look it up. And I talked about how the executive order at the time of my making of a video did not forbid motorized boating, gas or electric motors. And I had a lot of people who got upset and said, but Steve, I saw the governor mention it in a talk she gave. And as I pointed out in the video, the law is the law. What she says is just her talking. You don't follow her around and go, did you hear what she just said? That's the law. Oh, did you hear that's the law. Oh, she said something else. That's the law. What else did she say? That's the law. No. I was simply pointing out the distinction between the law versus what people were just saying. So I had a guy who friended me on Facebook, posted a bunch of stuff on my timeline, and then wrote me a really, really nasty message through the messenger system and called me a bunch of names and said, why aren't you responding to my comments? And I'd gotten several hundred identical comments already via email, comments under my videos, and on Facebook. And I just at that moment in time, I didn't have time to deal with him. And I thought it was kind of rude that he called me some names and said, why won't you respond to my comments? And he called me some names. So I blocked him and deleted him from Facebook. So apparently he figured that out. And then he went onto YouTube, onto one of my videos, and called me some more names and said, you aren't much of a man because you're not willing to debate me. You're not much of a man. Something you're no excuse for a man, or you're a sad excuse for a man because you won't debate me, and you've blocked me from Facebook, and therefore you're not much of a man because you won't debate me. So I wrote him back and said, debate you? I'd love to. Call my office or email me. You've got my email address. Or call my office and we'll set it up. We'll do the debate on camera. We'll record the debate and I'll post it on my channel so that all my viewers can see it. We'll have a debate. You want a debate? Let's have a debate. No response. No response. So I'm not much of a man because I won't debate somebody in a hidden discussion on Facebook, because the messenger system in Facebook is just between me and him. I'm not much of a man because I won't debate him there. But my offer to debate him here on my channel, where everyone can see it, he won't take me up on that. So I know his name. At least I know what name he used on Facebook because he used the same name on Facebook and YouTube. I know his name. So if he contacts me or if he sees this video, offer is still there. Steve@lehtoslaw.com. It's all over the internet. You can't avoid finding my email address if you look for it, or call my office. And by the way, just so you know, and I'm not being facetious here, I've had people write me the nastiest stuff on Facebook and on YouTube, and then they say they want to discuss it with me, and I go, call my office. And I've actually had one or two people call my office, but the bulk of them go, no, I don't want to call your office. No. I go, why not? You'll discuss it. You'll discuss it with me here, but you won't talk to me on the phone. What do you think I'm going to do? Do you think I'm going to reach through the phone and grab your larynx and rip your throat out? What could I do to you over the phone that I couldn't do to you here? In fact, here there's a record of it. I can print out what you said, or I can complain about it to Facebook if you threaten me. Over the phone, it seems to me to be a safer form of communication. And I'll also tell you that the one or two people who've called me and said they wanted to discuss something with me over the phone turned out to be completely crazy. Completely crazy. And I've never taken phone calls like that and done anything with them. And I've never even recorded them. I literally just listened to them going, wow, I wish I had a recording of this one, but so there you go. I'm not much of a man because I won't engage in a debate in a private back channel on Facebook. Although I'm willing to do it in public in front of all these people. I'm not much of a man. So there you go. That's the kerfuffle for this Friday. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. The other day I saw an ad for recycled toilet paper. I decided I didn't need to buy it all that urgently.